now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms, we take one of the Psalms from the Book of Sung Praises, from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament that we hear in every holy sacrifice of the Mass, because we have the Psalms in every Mass, and we connect the Psalms to your everyday lived experience. Well, today, looks like we're going to be finishing off Psalm 31. So Psalm 31, of course, is in book 1 of the Psalms, Psalms 1 to 41. And again, just a quick refresher. So the Psalms there are 150 Psalms broken up into 5 books. Each of these books, I think it's trying to parallel the Pentateuch, right? The Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, books of the law. So the Psalms are broken up into 5 books. Psalms 1 to 41, 42 to 72, 73 to 89, 90 to 106, and 107 to 150. David wrote David is the only writer of the Psalms who has Psalms in all 5 books of the Psalms. And David wrote the entire first book, Psalms 1 to 41. So today we're looking at Psalm 31. We're going to jump in at verse 14. But first, the prescript of this psalm, which is the entire first verse, says, Lemenzeach mizmor ha-David. For the choir master, a psalm of David. Now, if you're following along in your version of the Psalms, or if you're to pray the liturgy of the hours, you won't see these. You're like, where is Deacon getting that from? Well, in the Masoretic text, which is the Jewish version of the Psalms that we use in our liturgy of the hours, that we use in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, and you know, because sometimes if you use the Septuagint version, it's a number off. The numbering's a little bit different. And so when I pray the Psalms, I use the breviary, but I don't use the breviary for the Psalms, because they take out the imprecatory Psalms and they don't include these prescripts or superscripts, which in the Jewish text was also called the Masoretic text. They include these prescripts and superscripts as actually part of the Psalm. So for me, when I don't pray them, when I don't pray these prescripts or superscripts, it sounds to me like I'm not praying the entire Psalm, you know? Plus, it gives us a good context for understanding what's going on here within this Psalm. So again, this one says for the choir master. So David wrote the Psalm, right? Mizmor ha-David, a Psalm of David. He gave the Psalm to the superintendents of the musical guild of the Jewish temple to put music to it. All right, because David wrote some of the Psalms with the music himself. Others he gave to the guys in the musical guild, and they wrote the music to it. Again, we don't know what that music sounds like, because obviously there's no recordings back there. There's no transcriptions that we have. Although on the internet you can find scholars and even like PhD level musicians who study music, who kind of give an interpretation of what they think, their best guess of what they think the Psalms would have sounded like. So you can go and listen to that. Okay, so this jumping here, Psalm 31, starting at verse 14. So David says, I've heard the slander of the crowd, terror all around me, as they plot together against me, as they plan to take my life. All right, so David started off this psalm talking about taking refuge in the Lord, not being put to shame. And here toward the end of the psalm, he's reminding us, I think he's reminding us that, there's going to be people when you stand up for your faith, when you stand up, look at, we're talking about Padre Pio today, look at him. I mean, when the stigmata happened, people thought that even within the church, they silenced him. They couldn't say Mass publicly for years. He was ostracized. They had medical people come out to see if he was actually faking it and all this kind of stuff. So he was even persecuted because he manifested some of the signs that God gave to him. So he even had to endure things. Even, again, within the church herself, sometimes we have to endure some persecution. But most especially from the culture. Right, from the culture, that's antithetical to faith, that doesn't care much about God. Although we're going to be doing a show in a few weeks here, we're going to see a turnaround, especially with young people, where we're seeing actually the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way now. I think we've gotten sick and tired of the woke and of the brokenness and confusion within the culture, and now we want to get back to some normalcy, some rationality, and we're starting to see that swing back again. So David here is recognizing the fact that, yes, I hear what's going on around me. I hear the noise. I hear the distractions of the culture trying to take me away from my relationship with God, and sometimes it's terrifying. Terror all around me. Sometimes we feel that we're alone in this battle. There's so many people, even people within the church, who are thinking and acting like the culture and not like people of God, trying to change Christ's teachings in order to fit their narrative, their own subjective, distorted narrative, instead of looking to the beauty and truth of Christ. And so David recognizes that as they plot together against me, they plan to take my life. Well, take his life literally, but also spiritually here, trying to kill God's life within me, trying to make me feel like I'm the one that's broken and I'm the one that's confused, instead of the culture being the one that's confused and hurting. Because everybody's just trying to get along, just trying to go with the flow. And as I've said many times, when you look at things that flow down a river, those things are dead. We have branches and animals. It's the salmon that fight against the current. That's the salmon that fight upstream. And we have to be the salmon. In the last couple of verses here, David says, "But as for me, I trust in you, O Lord." Here we go. David says, yes, look what's happening all around me. I recognize that. I acknowledge it. But I won't have any part of it. And I'm going to stand strong in the midst of this persecution. Why? I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. Right? God, I love the confidence of David here. And I love going to these Psalms, especially when I'm feeling a little bit despondent, when I'm not feeling confident. I can go and see David says, I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My lot is in your hands. Right? I'm not just rolling the dice here, Lord. I'm putting my life, I'm putting my trust in you, O Lord. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies and those who pursue me. The confidence of David, knowing that God will come to his aid and come to his rescue.
Yeah, and I mean, for us to be ridiculed for our faith is the rest of the world doesn't understand. So why wouldn't there be a mockery going on there? Because to them it does feel like a farce or seem magical, when really it's the supernatural world that we come from. That's where, God exists. So we get to explain that through, well, this is where I've seen God work in my life. You can mock it if you like, but a lot of times when it wears us down, that's when we're like, yeah, I don't think I really want to follow him anymore. And we can't let that happen.
Yeah, I always have admiration for people who can stand in the fray. And deal with all of the negativity. I think of guys like, Trent Horn. And let's continue to pray for him and his wife who's recovering from brain surgery. They found a tumor, and they went in and removed the tumor, and she's going through recovery right now. So let's continue to pray for him and for her and for their family. They still have little kids at home. But how he goes into those debates, and he's not afraid. Lila Rose, not afraid to stand out there, knowing they're going to take the hits, right? Knowing that, and what's that gal from Students for Life? Man, she's a beast, man. She's a warrior. Love her. And they know they're going to take the hits, and they're able to stand strong and to stand firm in confidence because they know they have the fullness of truth on their side. Even though the person doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to accept it, they're planting the seeds of faith that even breaking through the negativity, we can still hear God's voice.
Amen.
I love that.
For more on the Psalms with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, check out Beacon of Truth weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio and streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts.